Nova Scotians are waking up this morning to damage left by torrential downpours that swamped the province this weekend.
We got 3 months worth of rain in less than 24 hours. It came fast and it came furious.
A state of emergency now in effect across the entire province. Roads have been washed out and many bridges have been weakened. Searchers are also looking for 4 people, including 2 children and a youth, as well as a man. They went missing after the vehicles they were in became submerged in floodwaters. Severe flooding has forced hundreds of people from their homes. Officials expect it could take days for the water levels to recede in some areas. The CBC's Katie Nicholson joins us now from Bedford, Nova Scotia. Katie, what more can you tell us about where you are?
Well, Natalie, I just want to show you a little bit of the damage here. Martin, come on up a little closer here. So this is a bit of a decline here from one of the main roads where there's a bridge closed. You can see here where the water just poured through and scooped up all of these stones. You can sort of see some of the pipes underneath. There's a bit of the lip of the concrete hanging over where all of this was sort of hollowed out, and you can follow it all the way down here. You see these big stones move down towards the train tracks. And Martin Trainer here behind the lens, if you can just hop up a little closer to the fence there, you can see where some of the rail bed stones were also washed away. So this really speaks to, again, those volumes, the power of the water in that deluge overnight Friday into Saturday morning. And this is an area where some people were forced to evacuate. I did touch base with a couple of evacuees from the Bedford area who found their way to Dartmouth. They stayed in the Comfort Center there overnight before being able to reconnect with family. And Peyton Diebel is one of those people. She described to me how harrowing an escape she had to make with her 80-year-old grandmother from the apartment building that they lived in. Here's a little of her account.
It was scary. It was scary. I definitely didn't experience that before, you know, being out on a boat, and I was there with my grandmother. I was looking after my grandmother the whole time. So getting her onto the boat, getting myself onto the boat, getting my fiance onto the boat, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but luckily enough, the first responders were really awesome and they took us to safety. So, but it was, never experienced that before in my life. So that was a little crazy.
Peyton Diebel talked about the storm, chain lightning through the night Friday into Saturday, watching as that water came up through their parking lot, covered, totally immersed her car. She watched the airbags explode and just there was nothing she could do. At one point, someone else in the building said that they were marking the amount that the water was going up every hour, and they said it was about 7 inches per hour for a period there. So that really speaks again to just how powerful and how much of a deluge this really was for this entire region.
Much. The region's still shaken by all of this. We know, Katie, the Halifax Regional Municipality this morning warning people to stay off the road, saying that there are significant damage to the roadways, to infrastructure. All that's still happening. In the meantime, we know police are searching for 4 missing people. Katie, what more do we know about that?
Yeah, and again, this is something that really speaks to the violence and the speed of this storm. What happened? This is a search where RCMP are looking for occupants who have not been yet accounted for in 2 different cars. They're being very careful about saying where this search area is because they don't want other people impeding in the search. Essentially, what happened is there was 1 car with 5 people, and 3 people were able to get out. 2 children still unaccounted for. There was another car with 4 people, and 2 people were able to get out, but a youth and an adult still accounted for. So that search is ongoing, and really what officials are asking for is people to stay back, let the officials, let the search crews do their work and don't get in the way. And
we have heard from the RCMP who say, Katie, they are expecting an update a little bit today on that search, so we will be watching for that and coming back to you for that. Thank you so much. Katie Nicholson reporting in Bedford, Nova Scotia. The mayor of the Halifax Regional Municipality is in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia at the Emergency Operations Centre. He joined us earlier to explain how difficult the last few months have been for the region. Take a listen.
You know, we've had incredible hurricanes, wind, we've had fire, we've had flood, we've had our own little tour of the Old Testament in the last while here in Nova Scotia. Every possible plague that could come upon us seems to have. But you know what? Yeah, it's a little bit trite to say it. Nova Scotia strong, but I think that there's a feeling here that we get through these things. There's a frustration, but I think there's also a growing recognition that our climate is changing. The weather is changing. The volatility, you mentioned that we didn't expect to have this kind of rain even as late as 2 or 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon. The volatility of the weather is really something that all of us around the world have to deal with. And here in Canada, all three orders of government are going to have to work together to both mitigate and adapt to the changing climate.
What would you like to see the government do?
Well, we certainly are going to need some help in the short term. You know, the Premier and I have been in communication. We did the same thing during the fires and also with Fiona. So I think there's a good level of cooperation among orders of government here. We have a very good emergency management system in the Halifax area for Nova Scotia. I've been in touch with the Prime Minister's office, with Bill Blair's office, with Dominic LeBlanc, the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, all of whom are assuring that there will be some support. We would like to see that as quickly as possible. We need to make assessments, but you know, it takes a while to get all this stuff verified and done. And you know, Halifax is a fairly well-off community. You know, we're doing fine financially, but we can't sustain these kind of losses and this kind of infrastructure. Cities have 60% of the infrastructure in this country, and we collect 10% of the taxes. So we all have to work together on this, and then have to help the individual homeowners. There's probably people who are on vacation who don't even know if they have water in their house yet, and so it's a desperate situation for a lot of people.
Mike, before we let you go, I wonder what is your message for people in the region right now?
Well, right now, I don't want to just keep repeating, but we need people to stay off the roads as much as possible. As I say, in some areas the roads are quite fine, and others they aren't. Really want people, you know, these areas of large standing water may look like fun the day after a storm, but they're no place for kids to play. There is contaminants in the water. There's also still the danger of rushing water where the water has accumulated. So people need to be safe, stay home as much as possible, stay away from the water. Obviously, people have to make their own assessments with their own insurance companies and things like that. But look, we will get through it as we have in the past, and I just want people to be safe.